Okay, this video is going to be on high grafting. Okay, high grafting is just a different form of typical grafting. We've got a big, huge camellia here. Okay, it has a pretty bloom. Okay, but it's just too big for the area where it's at. My wife looks out this window, and this blocks her view. And this variety, as you can see, it just wants to be a tree. So we're going to replace the top of this camellia with a different variety. Now, look how huge the trunk is. Okay? If it wasn't such a huge camellia, if it was a small camellia, you could cut it down at the bottom and just put like one or two signs, and put a bucket over it. I've often done this, and then just put a pane of glass and maybe a brick over it and sand around the bottom. But on this one, I don't want to have to cut all this off and have it so low. I want to use these branches right here to put I'll have graft on 4 different limbs. Now the problem with that is, how are you going to cover it? Okay, you know the sign has to be covered to have the 100% humidity. Now sometimes I've gotten away with like a trash can, and I cut a hole in the bottom and just have plastic on top, and after I graft, I can cover it with a trash can and put sand around it, and that works great. But on this particular one, I want to graft up higher. That's why we're going to call this high grafting. So, the first step would be to determine where you want to cut these branches. Okay? Now, I'm going to put, after I cut them, I'm going to put an old variety called Hermie. A lot of you probably have it. It's in a lot of older gardens, but I've got several hundred camellias, but I don't have a Hermie. So I am going to put Hermie on every branch. Some people like to do a high grafting on a camellia like this and put a different variety on each branch. Kind of like a fruit cocktail tree with citrus or something, with fruit. But if you did that, I think you'd want all the leaves to be kind of the same type of leaf and the same growth habit. You wouldn't want one that grows up tall and one that goes wide. But some people with limited space, you have a yard, you say you don't have any room for any more camellias, you could put more than one variety on the same camellia like that, like this one. So the first step is to decide where you want to cut, and you want to use a saw that has real thin blade, real tiny little, the cutting teeth. You don't want it to be real ragged. So I have a nice little cutting tool. Okay, so I want to have a little bit of room, because after I cut it, we're going to make some little loops and put a plastic bag around it. So I wouldn't want to cut it right here, because then you couldn't get the hoops around. So first step, is to carefully cut the big tree. Oh no. Okay, we've done a little work since the first part of the video. This is what we chopped down. You can see how huge of a plant it really was. And it's hard to do that, but it won't take long, because this was such a healthy plant and big plant. The signs that we graft are going to shoot. They'll grow 3 to 4 feet. probably in 1 year. So let's go back to the rootstock and see what we've got. Since you saw me cut the big tree, I've come in and I made a secondary cut, because sometimes when you cut the big branch, it's a little rough. So I made several nice smooth cuts. If you need to, you can trim the top, but if you use a real fine-tooth saw, okay, you'll find that it's a pretty smooth cut. If you use like a big jagged saw, you'll need to trim the top, and on these big stumps, that's hard to do. So a good sharp fine-tooth saw is important. Okay, let's take a closer look at what I've done. My wife is my film crew here. Now, zoom in here, okay? On this big stalk here, it's so big that I made two. Instead of just cutting it right down, instead of clefting it right through the middle, I've clefted it two different places, closer to the edge. That does several things. One, it allows me to put in 4 signs, okay, very easily. I need a big screwdriver to put in to open it up, okay? If you just put one down the middle, it's very tight. You can barely get it open, and you need to put a wedge in, okay? So it doesn't just crush the signs. Now I didn't really think I needed to, but I did. Do you see right here, this little wedge? Okay. It's such a big rootstock, when you put the signs in, sometimes it'll just want to crush it to death. So about the size of a penny maybe. Okay. If I wasn't scared that the penny would have some type of oxidation problem or something, I really would just put maybe a penny. Just drive it down the middle after you put, you know, before or after, whatever you think works best, so it doesn't just crush it to death. But if you put these on if you cleft it closer to the outside, there won't be as much pressure. Now let's look at this one. This is more the typical, you know, graft. Okay, and I could probably put one on the other side, but it often will mess up this side. So I just put one in. Okay. Now I haven't finished this one because I wanted to show you how I cleft it. I won't go all the way through. I've already clefted it, and see how tight it is. I'll probably put a wedge in this one. Okay, but you know, I clefted it a little bit, 2 different ones off center, and you can put one on each side. Now that's probably, if all of those take, that's more than I need, but I sure like to increase my odds that what if only one of them takes? Oh, I'm good. Okay, now hopefully more than one would, and I might leave one on each side. Okay. So, but the actual grafting process is exactly the same as what you've learned to do before when they're in a pot or when they're real low on the ground. Okay, you line up the cambium layers, all that's the same. We're just doing it up high in the air. So the next step is, how am I going to cover this thing? You know, I mean, it's up 3 foot. How, you know, so let me pause the video to get okay. Hopefully this will be the last segment of this demonstration. One thing I did not show you earlier, I definitely am a believer in using fungicides. I like to use a little squirt bottle. It's Captan and the mixture just like it's on the label. And after I cut, even before I cut, I sterilize everything. So I'm going to use a bag, okay, to cover this up. Okay, I usually, not a lot, but just squirt, okay, just a little bit of moisture. Okay? And I use the same Captan water. It could just be water, but and you don't want, I just want a little mist inside the bag to keep the humidity. Don't put too much water or it will cause things to mold or rot or disease. Okay? Now, you could just put it over it, but the bag with rain and wind, it's going to hit the, I need some type of support. So Hewlin Smith taught me this, but I did look back in some real old journals and other people were doing it. I'm going to use, this is clothesline wire. Now, if you're not probably 40 years old or older, you might not have any idea what a clothesline wire is. Nobody has clotheslines much anymore. But I did find you can still buy it at hardware stores, and I think I got this at Home Depot. But just long wires, a clothesline wire, and to me it looks like those little bobo paddles, okay? Like where you hold the handle and you hit the little ball up and down. Also looks like maybe what my PE teacher when I was in 3rd or 4th grade used to spank me with, okay? But just a little hoop, okay? And I'm gonna get electrical tape. Okay, maybe zoom in here. Okay. I'm going to, you need about 4 hands, and if you had a helper, getting it started, it's the hard part, but the tape will secure the hoop. Okay. Now, 2 works best. Okay. Sometimes it's easier for me to get one side started with the tape and then put the other side, this one down, and you're not fighting it as much. And I used plenty of tape. And I also have found use good quality electrical tape. I love the Dollar Tree. Kay and I go there a lot, or a store like that, and buy some, like 3 packs for $1. And sometimes, I don't know the brand, it's not as sticky, but you want it to be good. Sometimes I also put a little bit up at the top so these little paddles don't shift around. Okay. Now I have and you can adjust it if you need to, and I've already squirted a little bit of water inside. Now you have an enclosure for the bag, and I usually use little zip ties, okay, to hold it. Now, don't, just get it where it's, I try for the bag not to touch any leaves, okay? So you can kind of adjust it up and down, and then you want that just as tight as you can get, okay? And then kind of adjust the, okay? Now, even though I got that zip tie real tight, when it starts getting warmer weather in April and maybe even into May, I don't want it there. See, I can move it just a little bit. That worries me, because if inside that bag gets dry, if it doesn't keep that humidity, your side, it's going to be all over with. So at the bottom of the bag, I get more electrical tape. Okay, hurry up, JD. And I make sure that bag, there's no way any air can get up in that bag. Probably this is overkill, but I just make sure that bag is secure. And if you tape it all the way to the bottom, air is not going to get up in there. Okay. Now, the last part, and I've learned this the hard way, make a label. Okay. Sometimes I write on the bag, but you're going to end up breaking the bag open to allow air in. So make some tags, make some labels. And if you left it like that, the sun is going to bake it to death. you need to cover it with some type of bag. Christmas wasn't that long ago, so we have some, I think these were some of our Christmas bags. You can buy the little brown paper bag. The little sandwich bags often are too little, so you have to get a bag that will fit. I've used some little things like this, okay? I've used little bags like this. Be careful, if you use a bag like this, you might need to use 2 of them. Make sure the sun, it depends upon the area you're at, make sure it shades it so it's not going to overheat inside there. Okay. This is perfect, some type of bag like that. You can use 2. Now, I'll end up doing all the others, and it'll look like a little weird, I don't know what to call it. The neighbors might look at it funny, what's going on there? But I would have 4 different bags on this one. Okay, now, let's fast forward. What happens next? Well, today is almost the end of February. I don't do much of anything until April 15th, tax day. Okay. I come and I look, see what's going on. If it's not growing at all, I put the bag back on. Once I start seeing some growth or some callus, if I can see some definite callus and the signs look healthy, especially if they're starting to put out some new leaves, I punch a hole in the bag. This part's real important. Okay? Get up, just a little tiny hole. I don't want to do it to this one because it's not ready yet. Put a little hole in there. Wait a couple days, wait a day. Come back, make sure nothing is starting to, if it starts looking like it's wilting, close the hole back up. Get some electrical tape, close it up. Just like you would a normal graft. Gradually allow air into the bag. Put a hole here. 2 or 3 days later, put another little hole. Then another little hole. After about a week, you can open up a little tear. And you keep putting the bag over it, okay? And you also want to gradually tear the bag. After about a week of letting air in, if things are going good, you want to expose it to the sun, because you don't want it to be in all this shade and then all of a sudden one day just pop it off and it's sunny and hot. So you're going to just rip holes in the bag. Keep ripping holes in the bag until the bag is just about to fall apart. Okay? And after a 2 to 3 week period, then you can expose the whole thing, just kind of like you would a normal graft, exposing it to the elements. This is a good way to put more than one variety on a rootstock if you have limited room. So this works really well, and I hope you'll try it. Okay, I told Kay that I was finished, and as soon as I did, we both remembered something else that's very important. What type of bags to use. Make sure they're like freezer bag quality. Now Mark Crawford orders these, they're 2-gallon size. You can't, the little 1-gallon size, you just can't fit over it. Don't use anything real like laundry, real thin bags. They need to be freezer quality. Now I have gone to grocery stores or Walmart, places like that, and you can find 2-gallon freezer bags. Okay, 2-gallon, they need to be pretty big. And I cut that little top off because that little zip lock causes problems. And you could just, they cost a little bit more if you get them from the grocery store. And I'm sure if you Google, you could find 2-gallon. They need to be fairly thick, okay? Meaning you don't want a bird, you want it to be pretty thick, okay? So, but freezer bag quality. Okay, I think that's all.